Hello, everybody. Steve's going to be running a little behind today, so I got the whole screen to myself. Uh, y'all get to see me in uh, my better appearance, I guess. You'll also notice that I've upgraded the streaming software to now be able to stream in 1080p. So, as if that wasn't going to help enough, Steve is not going to be here tonight for another. He says 10 minutes. So you'll get to see me in 1080 until then, guys. But hello, Norbert, Philip, I said a few others. Jack, welcome. Y'all guys were here before I was. I was trying to get everything set up. Uh, I hope the background noise isn't too bad. I got a job I'm running behind on over there trying to get finished. And I'm like, guys, this is a massive job. This is my scrap. So I've got to make 80 of those. It takes a little while. So I'm running a little behind on those. Trying to get those done. That's a good deal. Microphone's doing a good job then. Three Dogs Custom Engraving. Hello there, Robert. Hello, Renee. How are you? I saw you at the Strawberry Festival the other day, but you disappeared before I could speak to you. I told my wife I was going to go over and put the camera in your face, but you were gone when I got there. Hello, Darren. How are you? All right, guys. For those of y'all that don't know, tonight the reason Steve is running late is he is still on his road trip. He left Minnesota about a week ago, I guess it was, on like a Friday, and he was here last Sunday. But this weekend he has been in Georgia, and I think he's down in Jacksonville now. So he's running a little bit behind. I don't know if it's technical difficulties, traffic, who knows. But he says he'll be here. He just told me he's going to be about 10 minutes late. So, y'all, I don't even know if he's here yet or not. But if Brian starts missing his beard, he'll be here shortly. Hello, Gene from Illinois. There's Brian right there. I knew he was going to show up. Oh, Steve, how are you? But uh, but yeah. So guys, y'all got to help me keep a secret. All right. I got this new machine in from Two Trees, and I was excited. I was taking pictures. I was getting ready to release a video, and then they sent me an email, and apparently I can't release anything on it until the 5th of May. So I'm not procrastinating. I didn't know it was an early release. So they kind of got on to me a little. They didn't want me to release it till the 5th. So I'm gonna go by their rules. But for those of y'all that saw the machine that are fans of Two Trees, from what I've seen so far, it's a really nice machine. Uh, but the video will be out on the 5th before anybody asks me about that. Uh, I, Renee, I must have missed you. I walked around looking for you and couldn't find you, but you probably weren't there, and I just didn't recognize the tent. Yeah, Jack, it's kind of hard to say you won't tell anybody when I put stuff on YouTube. I did that with another company, and I was like, these companies will never send me anything else, but they actually did later. But a lot of times they don't want you releasing their product, and they have just because it isn't out, and they want to wait and save that rush for when you can actually order the machine and have it ready. So you got to respect that. You got to respect the rules for these other companies and everything. So what have y'all got going on? Well, I didn't ask Darren. There's a picture of it. There's a picture already out there. And yes, Graybeard. Apparently, I do have a. I've actually got three machines that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. Of course, we're going to have the Two Trees TS2, which is their. I guess it's a new design 20 watt. It has a few added extras, and it's very unique. And then I've got a Whiz Maker, which I'd never heard of, and they're supposed to be they're supposed to be sending me out one. I think it's going to be here like Tuesday, and I don't know if this is an early release. I've got to. They should put that in the first email. Like when they ship it, they should say, "Hey, by the way, don't put this on YouTube until this day." But I've got it's a Whiz Maker. It looks a lot like an H or P20. There's some minor differences. And then of course I've got the new Acer. I have got my order confirmation on it, and so I should have the brand new L2 Acer that has some upgrades. So hopefully within the next week or so we'll have that. Yeah, Chris, I don't think they would. I don't think they'd buy that, man. How's the weather down there this morning, by the way? Well, Renee, I will be at the City Fest. I'm going to be at the events, all the first three events downtown in Clanton. I'm going to be there. I think it's like June the 2nd, the 9th, and 16th or something like that. I'll be at all of those, and I'm also going to be at the Peach Jam. I'm going to have a booth set up. My buddy Klein's going to come help me with the booth, and hopefully we can meet some folks and do some cool stuff. Jack, I've heard that those CNC, those bits breaking, can be kind of tough. Brian, hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? I mean, you don't. If they're gonna let me have it, I can't get greedy. You know what I mean? I would love to get the 30 watt, but from a business perspective, from looking at it from their angle, I understand because both machines are exactly the same except for the power output. But maybe one day, but that'll be fine. I'm just tickled to death that I get to try these machines out. It's a blessing. So, and then hopefully I can pass some information along to you guys and do a little fact checking on some of the stuff that these companies put out there, and just make sure you're not getting anything pulled over on you. Well, Steve, as we discussed, I've got a machine that I've got in that I can't release a video on yet, but I can tell you it's red. It's sitting right there, and it does have autofocus with a Power Z, which is pretty cool, but it takes some getting used to. So I think I predict within the next 6 months, Power Z and autofocus is going to become like standard equipment for most of these machines, except for the really low entry models. Yeah, Brian. See, that's the way I work around my allowance from my wife because she tells me I can't spend money on lasers, but she didn't say I couldn't take them if people want to send them to me. So, you know, as long as it's not costing me a lot of money, I guess I'm good. Uh, well, Renee, I hate you're gonna miss the Peach Jam. Uh, but I'm sure that Ring Bomb convention will be a hoot because if all those ladies are like your bunch, it should be fun. Oh, wait a minute, guys! I just got a bleep, and it appears that Ventari's workshop is coming online. Looks like he's having some camera setup uh, concerns. Can anybody tell that the resolution is better than it has been in the past? By chance, I mean, does the 1080 is that helping? I mean, yeah, Brian, I've been lazy this weekend. I, I needed to have been at work making more of those things over there, but I had to get out of the shop for a little while. I've been in here so much lately. I needed a weekend off. But yes, Steve and I had a discussion, and I went ahead and I upgraded our streaming software so that Brian could see the beard a little better. Well, guys, it looks like he's coming in. He's It looks like maybe some audio. Steve, you got a little red mark on your audio over there, guy. I don't know if that's. Let's try this.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're kind of looking a little froggerish, but we got you, Steve. We got you. I upgraded this to 1080, and you're in like 460.
Well, I'm at the hotel. Not much I can do about anything here.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, update everybody. I've been sitting here talking and just kind of talking about some of the new machines we got coming out, and but let us know how your trip's going there.
It's it's going. Yeah. So I after I left your place, I drove to my event in Georgia, which basically consisted of me being out in a grass strip airfield for the entire week. And some of those days were very sunny. One day was very rainy. So I got a little sunburned. Not that this white light is showing that off too well, but it was a good time catching up with a lot of old friends, making some new friends from Virginia of all places. But and then yesterday I left there to come down to not so sunny Florida. It was I literally came up to the Florida border, and it's like Sunshine headquarters in 2 miles, and at the same time my phone's going off with weather alerts of hazardous weather and everything. So I drove into Florida in a very lovely storm, and I woke up to tornado warnings and high wind advisories. So I don't think Florida likes me.
Yeah. Hey, Chris is pointing out that your hat's backwards, so you're pulling a clack. They said you're using my internet cable, and you've got your stuff on backwards.
Man, I must be from when I must be from hanging out in your workshop too much.
That's what it is. It's contagious.
That better? Got everything in the right order.
Y'all got me so paranoid. Every time I come in here, I turn my camera on. I'm like, okay, does it read right? And then sometimes my dyslexia kicks in or something, and I think it's right. It's really not right. So,
but
Brian said you need to start reviewing some RVs.
Oh, I've done the trip in an RV, and that's it's great when you have multiple drivers. Otherwise, it's not. It's great when you're there. It's not so great when you're driving. But yeah, no. Today I got to actually hang out with a couple friends. As a matter of fact, I've been friends with them a long time, but I've never met in person until today. So one of them's in the RC hobby as well. Had breakfast with him, and that was a good time. And then most of the day I spent with my friend Chris from A Glimpse Inside. Actually was working with him. He's got a big Laguna 150 watt CO2 laser, and was able to help him actually get that running even better than it was before. He was having some issues with some power stuff when we were able to track it down to it's a beam combiner basically. So you've got the red dot laser that shines on a mirror that the CO2 beam is supposed to pass through. And then it hits your first, second, and third mirror and then comes out through the focus lens. Well, it was given some problems, and we were able to do some troubleshooting with that. And he's going to have to see about getting that replaced. But so he was really happy. Almost was able to double his speed by getting that sorted out. So,
cool.
Then hung out the day with him. I actually have a picture. I'll just share it in the group. I brought the X-Tool 20 watt down and set it inside of his massive Laguna laser to do a little testing and showing off. And the interesting thing, so he's had this laser for over a year and whatnot, but he said that even with that, he could see a purpose and is interested in getting a diode laser to augment his others. So for the people who say you can't run a business with a diode laser or that you can't make money with them, I mean, here's a guy who a lot of his bread and butter is cutting stuff out on his laser, his big CO2 laser, and he sees value in them as well. So,
well, this guy right here sees value in them. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the jobs that I do when you were over here. I mean, you see them a lot on the YouTube channel, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not. I don't have armored trucks pulling up to the shop every day, but it keeps the lights on and keeps internet working. So I mean, that's what I'm after. But yeah, Brian's wanting to know if there's going to be a video. I got the comments up there. What's that pinned, didn't he? Did y'all do a video while you were there?
No, we didn't. We just kind of hung up. We did some troubleshooting today. Yeah. There's might be a couple of Instagram posts and such as far as that, but after spending a week in the sun.
Well, I can tell you, that's why I told everybody. Everybody's like, man, I figured you and Steve. And I told him, I said, I was really planning on getting Steve out there and putting him on a sawmill or putting him to doing something that he doesn't normally do. But dude, when I picked you up and looked at you and you had that like I'm dead look, I just wanted to get you fed, hydrated, and get some caffeine in you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like I said, hang out and do some cool stuff. Uh,
No.
but uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, I can imagine all the driving you have done. That would be a little rough. But yeah, I was telling everybody, I took some pictures of this machine and put it on my page the other day. And you know how it is. They send you the machine, but they don't tell you, hey, don't put this out until this date. Well, I got that email. Uh, so Two Trees sent me an email. It's like, hey, we're looking forward to seeing the videos in May. And I'm like,
Nice.
oh, okay. Because you know as well as I do, sometimes these guys are like, hey, I see you got the machine yesterday. How come the video wasn't out last night?
Right.
But then other
Right.
times you get them and they're like, hey, I see you got the machine and you put a video out. You weren't supposed to do that yet. So they should start putting that in the front end of it.
Well, you just gotta slow down a little bit.
Well, I stay wide
I
open.
I know you. You're not gonna slow down.
I did this weekend though. I actually did. I told my wife, I said I need like a couple of days off to just try to take it easy, piddle a little bit. I did do a little piddling last night. Broke out my paint, which I hate, but it was actually relaxing. So, but all right, guys. Well, that's what we've been doing. Other than troubleshooting Steve's internet, and it's the irony that he's pixelated and I'm not now. It's just. Anybody have any questions or concerns? I had a couple of people this week that have had some issues with their machines. I think we got them straightened out, but I don't know if they made it into the chat tonight or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get caught up on things both in the Facebook group and online. Um, I've been a bit
Yeah,
disconnected. I had horrible internet both at the hotel and at the field, so there wasn't much I could do this past
yeah.
week.
Good evening there, Jeff. Philip, appreciate it. Yeah, the video, the Strawberry Festival. My wife hit me up the other day, and she's like, "Hey, since you're not doing this event, you want to ride up there and just see what it's about, and see who's up there and what kind of stuff's there." So I was like, "Well, sure." So I got a chance to take my little pocket camera out and make a few clips with some people, and I found out that the Glowforge in our area is actually a lot more popular than I thought it was. A lot of people are using those. Uh,
Yeah,
so
there's
I did find that out.
there's a lot of people that use those, and I think they definitely marketed that towards that crafter
Yeah.
home business thing. So they hit that market pretty well. So there's a lot of people that do definitely have them.
Yeah, but one of the ladies that I was talking to up there, she didn't want to be on camera, so I just kind of did a video for her. But her daughter and her run the business together, and she said that they had bought an X tool and they'd been using the Glowforge, and they had an X tool D1, but didn't know how to use it, didn't know how to get it set up and all that. And so there's a chance that they might actually be coming over, and I'm just going to kind of show them how to use it, and may even try to, sit down and talk to them and interview them about their business and how well they do and what they do and how they got started and that kind of thing. I think that'll be something cool that a lot of folks could relate to, especially the ones that are trying to start it. But we'll see. You should sub out the painting. Yeah, yeah. The Sisters by Choice at the Strawberry Festival had a lot of color. That's what made me feel guilty, and I came home and broke out my broke out my little paints because I was like, man, these ladies are whipping me when it comes to painting stuff. My wife defended me and said that I do a lot more instructional stuff instead of the crafty. So she's taking it up for me, trying to make me feel a little better about it anyway. The Bamboo Labs. Yeah, everybody keeps talking about this Bamboo Labs. I saw is it 3D printers? Is that what they're supposed to be really good at?
Yep. Yeah, they're a higher end 3D printer as far as ease of use, comes assembled, and um, most of them have like an enclosure style. So
Yeah. Yeah,
they're
Jack, I've got issues. I hate it too. Go ahead. My bad. I'm trying to
no, I
keep
was just
up with
saying
the comments.
they tend to be like the easy button of 3D printers. So,
Okay, there we go. There's one. There's a question. Finally, something we can do. Uh, Getting message when he starts to preview that paths aren't closed. Uh, yeah, there's a trick, Gene, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Steve, you want to kind of walk him through the process? That's more of a technical process. Or do you
Well,
have Lightburn
so
pulled up?
so you're getting this because it's seeing vector shapes, but that they don't complete. They don't form a complete shape. So there are nodes that are not connected, and there is an option in Lightburn to go in and tell it to search for these nodes and try to close them. Um, and then that will you'll notice it more if you're trying to do a fill, like if you're doing a flood fill or on a vector, and that section won't actually fill in. Where on lines you might just be missing a very minute section, and it still ends up cutting through, even though it was missing like a fraction of a millimeter of distance. So yeah, if you've got it fired up there, you should be able to go into that.
Yeah, I was going to try to demonstrate it. I'm trying to. I'm going to try to make the screen as big as I can for a minute, guys. That way, maybe you can see it. But what you're getting is when you can check files in Lightburn. If you go to Edit, select Open Shapes, it'll select anything that's open. But what's happening? And if I can, let me see if I can do this. Let me see if I can create the problem that you're having here. Let me find a node that I can take out here. Is it going to let me? Oh, I'm going to have to ungroup it. Hang on. So when you try to demonstrate something, you forget half of what you know, guys. So just remember that. You have to ungroup before you can edit nodes. So I'm going to make sure that that's ungrouped. Okay, now it's ungrouped. So what you're running into is in your shape. If I go in here and let's say I take out one of these nodes right here. Did I do that?
That
All right.
wasn't me.
I'm sitting here working Lightburn. It's like, all right. So I'm going to select that one and hit. Well, that's not going to work because I'm going to break it. Hang on. Remind me not to save my darn graphic. Let me change this to a line. I can't work with this mouse. Give me a second. This other screen, the mouse is not calibrated for it. Struggling, guys. I'm struggling. There we go. All right. Maybe I can see these a little better. All right. So if I go to this node, and if I break this shape, and that would be function B right there, and then, insert another one. All right. Let's see if that leaves it open. I know I've got a file that has broken shapes in it because I'm using it right now, and I've tried cleaning them out. But when you go up here to File or Edit, select Open Shapes. No, I still didn't get that one open. Hang on. Let's see if I got one. Boxes.py is bad about having, and I just purged my darn downloads. But anyway, I can't demonstrate it without coming up. Give me a second and go ahead and answer some other questions. And I'm going to make us one that does have that is broken.
Yeah, so it might be easier just to even just draw a box with a
Yeah,
node.
that's what I'm fixing to do.
You were talking about machines that you got in this week, so I assumed you were talking about the Two Trees one.
Yep.
I'm not at home to play with it, but I did receive shipping notice and delivery of the IKEA 24-watt laser. And so that one has some interesting features that I'm looking forward to. Should have an autofocus to where it'll go down and probe the material and set its offset from there. So that's going to be a welcome and interesting thing to try out, as well as some other really nice enhancements on there with auto air assist and such. So that's some incentive and motivation for me to make the 1,500-mile trek back home as timely but as safely as I can to get that out there. Of course, I've got the the atom stack as well as the eights or rotaries to work with as well. So a lot of stuff to be working with and demonstrating, and getting out there. So looking forward to that.
Yep.
So you got your shape all
Yep.
ready?
I got it. I got it. I got it somewhat working. I didn't. I haven't got it to set to a feel yet. It's there we go. All right. So there we go. So for all practical purposes, this shape looks to be, and it may have actually, if it auto joined, I'm going to be beside myself because I can never get them to do that. It did. What in the world? What is the chances of that happening? You know what I'm talking about. They never
Yeah,
do that.
it
They
snapped and filled
never
it, didn't
auto
it?
join.
Yeah, Chris, IKEA is actually supposed to be Atom Stack's kind of high end line of lasers. So you'll see a lot of crossover between the two. Um, so you'll see like the rotary and the camera and whatnot. They have the kind of the same ones, and they should
Okay, I got it.
interchange with a lot of those things as well.
I got it to come back open. So let me get this centered. Uh, but when you go up here, and it's going to do this automatically if you're having errors, if you're trying to burn it. I can't do it because I don't have a laser connected to my machine. But when you hit select, you can hit select open shapes. Basically, what that's telling you is somewhere in this design, it is not completely closed. And it's going to throw that warning up when you try to burn it. Now, there is a tool in here that you can go in and you can tell it to close selected. Once you do this and you hit select open shapes, you can go in here and tell it to close pass with tolerance. Now, it's going to ask you how far do you want to move the ends. And depending on what this design is, you got to be careful with this or you'll mess your design up. But I'm going to tell it to move it 1.5 because I know that should get me where I need to be. And then I'm going to hit OK. And when you do that, and this doesn't always work for me, guys, so I'm just going to throw that out there. When you do that, most of the time, it will actually close it for you. And see, it didn't do it that time. But close them with tolerances. Let me join them with a line. One remain. And I've tried getting this to where it'll say 0 remains, but it never does. So I'm thinking that doesn't change. But I typically end up having to go through and manually join these guys. Let's see if that got it. No, that still didn't got it. So what you're going to have to do to join them is to go back into your node editor here, and you'll go to wherever the space is, which if it's a really in-depth design, guys, this is a painstaking process. But you can actually go into here and select those nodes right there. Use Alt-J, and typically that will do it. And it did not. Okay, this is not going to cooperate. I'll have to do a video on it when I've got one that has some broken shapes that I can fix. I have created one I can't fix apparently here. Let me see what my deal is. I probably didn't get both of the nodes. Okay. Control. Click that one. Go back and do it this way too. Okay, I think I just messed that up. Anyway, poor demonstration, guys. It ain't wanting to work right. But anyway, what that means is you've got something open, and it is a pain to get them out of there sometimes. Yeah, see, that was still showing open. Typically, it will burn, but sometimes it won't. But like Steve said, depending on how you've got your settings up, it will mess up your design. I'm going to keep messing with this. I'm just going to get it off my screen. I'm going to figure this out. It's whooping me.
So both that and the delete duplicate lines are good tools to kind of play with and get used to, especially when importing either from another program or some, like you mentioned, boxes.py and other online programs. they're both good tools that can help clean up files and make them smoother and more efficient. So um, definitely probably some good video content to do a quick tutorial on each one of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this one a little differently here. I'm gonna move this line over, get this guy to where I can do it without it snapping shut on me. But yeah, where's the my comments is catch up on the comments. Uh, yeah, it start when you start messing with these nodes, Gene, it does get painful. I've got, like I said, I've got a design over there right now that's burning. I was going through it trying to weed it and get all of the little unclosed shapes out of it because boxes.py, if you ever do a box in there, it has a habit of putting like a little curly tail at the end of sharp corners. And those things, every one of them will be an open shape. And you have to go in there and just pick through it and delete each single one. And it can be a really big hassle. So let me see if this does this. If I make this work, I'm going to try to undo it and then replicate it. I've done it 1,000 times, but I usually do it on the other computer. I think I've got my grid settings different on this one. Close the tolerance.
Yeah, Brian says node editing is a venture all on its own, and it can be definitely something that is frustrating at first to get used to because there's a number of different tools with it, and you need to kind of hover over the icon, and it shows you what I think there's like 7 or 8 different things you can do with the nodes. They're all like hotkey type things, but
I turned the screen share off first try. Hang on. This is killing me.
Classic presentation, you know.
Yeah, I turned screen share off. Look right here. I turned screen share off. It worked. All right, so I'm just going to undo that. And what I did is I just moved my brake over here. And you can see the line's not connected. Right there, the line is definitely apart. So when you go to burn it, you're going to get that error, but I'm just going to reproduce that error by using this select open shapes. All right. And so it's going to show you, okay, this shape is not closed. Now, the next, and this usually works. I don't know why it wasn't working a while ago. You go back up here, close pass with tolerance, and I'm going to move that up to about 3 millimeters because I know that this shape is big enough. It's not going to hurt anything. And then hit OK. And then when you go back and you check it again, no open shapes. So that is how it's supposed to work. But the further, like if you get into an intricate design, like let's say something like that, if you get into something like this barcode, and you've got open shapes in there, guys, it'll drive you nuts trying to weed all those things out. So it's a real pain. Yeah, that kills me. I sit there for 5 minutes looking like I don't know what I'm doing. It wouldn't work, and then I quit. It just bam. Ah. Yeah, the thing that I like is you can actually take a shape and manipulate it, join shapes, smooth the edges. I mean, it's a really, to me, it's a pretty powerful tool. Now I'm a little biased because I learned how to do node editing in Lightburn, and so there may be a lot better tool out there. But for what you pay, I think you get a pretty good deal. Steve's probably got more experience with that than I do.
Well, so my struggle with Lightburn is I have access to other tools that I'm used to using, and Lightburn has incorporated a lot of these. So, from laser control, they've done really well, but they also have incorporated a lot of the design features of vector programs such as Illustrator or Inkscape, as well as CAD. And so I sometimes forget that the tools are in Lightburn and don't take the time to necessarily learn the power of them. And so that's, sometimes you always fall back to what you first learned, what's comfortable to you. Um, but yes, there's a lot of power in using those tools that are built into it. So
Yeah, I mean, I still have to use my cheat sheet for a lot of the functions because there's so many functions that you can do with like Alt J or I or B or all these different functions. So I've got me a little cheat sheet. I just pull it up and
mhm.
reference it when I need it. But I'm learning. I've been a lot better with it. Uh, that's why a lot of my designs and a lot of my things are getting to where they're actually a little better than they were in the early days because I'm learning tricks, and it's a big time saver too. Once you learn how to use those tools, uh, like just like in node editing, I never thought to use just my arrow keys or my control keys or my shift keys to move them equal spacing, and it just dawned on me the other day, and I was like, well, I've been doing that the hard way, trying to draw a box and move everything to the box and all that mess. So, but it's very useful. Yeah, Two Trees is making a pretty good, cool machine. I haven't had a chance to sit and like show Steve the upgrades that they've done and some of the things that they've got on this machine, but it's pretty neat. Now, I will say this: if you don't like putting things together, you're not gonna like it. There's a lot of pieces, but it's not a bad build. I enjoyed the build, but it's not six screws and you're done. All right, guys. Anybody, any more questions? I about messed that one up. That was ridiculous. But
so
it's always when you try to sell somebody something.
here's one from Josh. He's asking about a job that stopped in the middle of the burn because of a computer going to automatic update. Wondering about starting a job where it stopped.
Mm. Have you moved it?
So yeah, if you haven't moved the object, or if you're able to re-reference exactly where it was in there, via being able to home and go with automatic points or a jig, you can go into the preview mode in Lightburn, and you can kind of pan through the whole job. And when you get it to the point where you think it stopped, I believe is it the start job from here function um,
Yeah.
that will start here. It's like the first button out of the four. You can have it start the job from that point. But yeah, you need to make sure it didn't move, and you want to be fairly accurate with where that is at. Because if you're doing a fill and you go over some of the other area a little extra, it might show up a little darker.
Uh, well, it used to be there. Oh, yeah. Well, why is it not letting me move it? But
You
that's the button there. But
yeah,
I
you
guess
need to
it may be
scroll
it may
the
be because I ain't got a
timeline.
machine on there. Oh, I got you. I got you. I got you.
There you go.
There we
Yeah,
are.
so you,
Yeah,
you
that's
bring it to about the point that it stopped, and then that start here button uh, opens up.
yeah. Or you can, if you know where the center of your piece is, you can use current position and do that. Or like they said, if you haven't moved it, the 180 cut approach angle will work too. I had to do one that way the other day. My computer, for some reason, if I plug a thumb drive in while I got a job burning, it sometimes will lose connection. And I had to start a cutting board over, and I did a 180 on the scan angle and finished it up.
Yeah, the other option Troublemaker just brought up is you can reverse, so start at the top and work down. So if you're just doing an engraving and you haven't moved anything, you can just change the scan angle or the start, your job origin to start from the opposite end. And then once it gets to where it's already completed, you would just manually stop, hit the stop button as well. So if it's a
Yeah,
multi object, cut in and engrave type thing, that might not work uh, without reordering some things. So, like if you're engraving half of it, but it still needed to cut out other things, it might mess up. But it is definitely something you can use to help eliminate some waste on items.
Yeah, the best thing is just don't move it, don't touch it, and I hope that your machine when it stops or whatever, hope that your home is very consistent because if your home's off a little bit, some engraves that you're gonna have a really hard time getting that to line back up perfectly. Uh, but yeah, somebody mentioned using my jigs to kind of keep that uh, lined up every time. That's why I do my cutting boards and I do all my stuff. I use that jig. That way, if I do take it off and decide, oh crap, I need to redo that, as long as I put it back in there in the right spot, I'm good. Yep, Mark's got it figured out.
So Norbert's asking, how do you cope with frustrations or do you have a failure?
I expect to fail when I start a job, so it's not a failure. It's actually a pleasant surprise when it works. That's it. I mean,
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. Is that you plan on some trial and error to get it right. I guess the real frustration would be is after you've got everything where you think it's right, and you put your absolute, okay, now I've got my expensive piece of material in there, and then it fails. That can get very frustrating. Um,
yeah,
Hopefully you're able to, if it's an engraving, able to sand it out a bit and restart. But sometimes it's just I call it a night at that point and say, you know what, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm getting frustrated. It's only going to get worse from here. Let's take a break. Let's go vent to someone.
yeah,
Uh, and sometimes in just doing that, it's like, I'll send a message to Clack and say, I can't believe this is so annoying. This is so frustrating. And I hate this. And he's like, hey, well, maybe if you just do this, I'm like, I'll be right back.
yeah. What was it you sent me the other day? I'm done. I'm
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
I'm done. Yeah, I had one, guys. Y'all know, and I'll mention it because I just got back a little while ago from my friend May May, her husband Vince, Vinny. He's a really good guy. We go to church together. Well, he just had his 60th birthday party. Well, a few months ago, May May had bought a piece of art and she was going to give it to her brother, and she brought it over here for me to engrave. Well, slight miscalculation on my part, and the machine, because I forgot about over travel, and I run a really high speed because this was a piece that I didn't want a real deep engrave in. So I turned the speed up and I underestimated the over travel by, I'm going to say, probably a millimeter, just enough to get it to bump as it swung over, and it moved the design just enough to where half of it was clear and half of it had a shadow. And guys, this was something I couldn't sand down. This thing, it was a piece of art that she had bought at some kind of art show. And so I was like, my heart hit my feet because I mean, this is May May. I mean, she's my good friend. She's got a YouTube channel. I do a lot of work for her, and I didn't know what she paid for this thing because I mean, you never know about art. But I got lucky and I called her and I'm like, hey, look, I had an issue. Poor judgment on my part. What I was doing was and I learned a lesson. I was using a new machine and I was trying to make a video on a project, and I used that new machine that I wasn't accustomed to, and I did not realize that was going to be a problem. I should have just thrown the thing in the Acer and been done with it. This machine had a smaller work area, and that's what led to the problem. But I ended up doing a three-dimensional burn and like gluing it to the piece where the mess up was, and hand painted it and all that. And it turns out she actually liked that a lot better than she did the original idea that I had. And so it was a good save. But that was one of those moments where, like you said, you just want to throw your hands up and go, man, I don't know what to do. But instead, I was like, okay, how can I fix this? And now it cost me more work because it would have been a lot easier just to do the engrave, hit it with a little polyacrylic and send it out the door. So I paid for my mistake with extra work, but the customer was happy. And unless they take and scrape that thing off of there, nobody will ever know except for you guys because I just told you about it. So you just gotta sometimes take it. And like I told my buddy Klein, he's just starting out in the laser engraving, and he had an order for some hats and he had an order for some tumblers. And I told him, order the material you need for the job, and then order you two or three extras. because it's not a question of if you're going to mess up, it's a question of how many you're going to mess up. And he ordered 3 extra tumblers, and luckily he had an extra. He only messed up 2. But as you're learning, especially, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Even me, up stuff. I had, all kinds of stuff gets messed up on a daily basis. You just gotta stay committed to it. Keep learning, learn from your mistakes, and just have fun. Because if you start getting too stressed about making mistakes, it's not fun anymore. Uh, a client called me yesterday. He's working on an order of name tags for a business here in town, and he sent me a text. He's like, "Dude, my machine's burning my wood up," and I'm like, "Well, check your focus and clean your lens." And so he checked his focus and cleaned his lens, and he called me back. And he said, "I done burnt 2 sheets of wood up, and it's just burning it." So I told him, "Bring it over here. Obviously, there's a problem." And luckily, my friend Steve had hooked me up with some lenses because Klein's lens had gotten a crack in it, and that was what was causing the problem. But he had been, spent several hours trying to fix that and get it working. Yeah, Brian, I plan on doing, now that he's starting to get his business kind of rolling, he's actually doing some jobs today that he got. I plan on getting him maybe one day to just kind of talk to everybody about how he's getting started and how it's working out for him. Uh, but he's just a hobbyist, just like I was when I started out. But him and his son, that's something that they've gotten into. His son's into 3D printing and is in college, and they can do it together. It's something they can do together and have fun, make a little money. He will be at the events coming up this summer. He's a teacher, so he's off during the summer, and I'm gonna put him to work at my booth. And maybe I'll get him in here one day. He's not. You'd think being a teacher, he wouldn't be worried about the camera, but he really doesn't like being on camera. Yeah, Mark, good idea to have them on hand, though. I'm telling you, because if I hadn't got those from Steve, I'd have been that machine would have been down until we could have got some in. And luckily, I had a pack of them that I'd ordered, so we got the machine back up. And he texted me and said that was actually that was 100% the problem, and it's back running good. So it's if you don't have them on hand, guys, get them before you're trying to finish a job and your machine goes down. Uh,
So Jim's asking, what's the best way to make items that are larger than your bed that you connect together? I want to design a box that my D1 sits on a 1/4 inch material.
you got to cut it into pieces. You talking about an engrave or like physical material that you want to put together?
Well, it sounds like he wants to design a box that's obviously larger than his D1. So this would probably be cutting out material um, that that's going to need to be joined somehow. Um, I've done this multiple times, especially on like my model aircraft, and you can you design your part the full size you need it, and then you pick wherever you're going to make your break, and you can create any sort of interlocking joint. So it could just be a couple of triangle type pieces that line that cut it in half. It could be a puzzle shape or something. You just want something that's going to give you some registration together to realign it, um, and kind of lock it in, and then you glue that up, and then if you really need so, you can then add some reinforcement on the inside or whatnot as appropriate. Um, or let's see if I can do this right. Try to share a one button.
I'm trying to clean the screen up. Give me a second. That's not working.
You're going to make us all dizzy. You find a friend with a larger laser.
Yeah, that works too.
So this is actually what I was working on today with Chris. He's got a 100 watt or 150 watt Laguna, and as you can see, my X Tool 20 watt sitting comfortably in there. As a matter of fact, you could put 2 side by side in there and let them function. Um, and This thing was cutting. We were getting it dialed in. So on 1/4 inch plywood, we got it cutting at about, and that was 3 layer plywood. I think it topped out around 35 millimeters a second.
Mm.
So It was able to slice through the material pretty quick, but he was impressed with the engraving quality of the X tool. So
Yeah. Now I use locking joints on like my jigs and stuff, but it's a little different. But it's the same principle as what you're talking about. That's what I do. Is I've just got the little square fingers that link together. And the way that I do that is like we talked about joining nodes. I actually go into that shape and I take that. I've got a file that I've built that has my connector, and I lay it on top of whatever it is I'm wanting to cut, and then I go in and cut the shape, and then put the nodes together and reattach it, and save that part, and then save that part. Uh, and I offset the line just enough when I do that to allow for a little bit of kerf, not enough to make it too tight, but
yeah.
a little bit.
And as VT Maker Doc brought up is so this really is yes the cut and print feature is where as long as you can move your material or move your machine, you can re-index off of registration points to help it identify where it's at, and then you could actually cut a solid piece that's bigger than your cut area in two separate jobs. So you would do the first cut, and then you would move your material. You would reference the registration marks, and then it would continue the cut as long as it needed for that. So it would allow you to make it as one solid piece. But if you want to do the interlocking bit and not have to move things around, or you don't have material that's big enough for that, the other way is to kind of basically puzzle them together and such. So,
Yep. Hello, had enough. Okay, that's a unique one.
um, Beaver Creek Farm Life, yes, I have swapped my X Tool lens sleeve with my 8RP20, and they fit on the same and they have the same distance. So it should work just fine. If you're wanting to replace the one on the 8 it doesn't, so that one has kind of a taper and a smaller cover lens to it than the X Tool. They are pretty much interchangeable and function the same.
Yeah, I will tell you this, Steve. The ComGrow, I can verify now that the ComGrow's 20-watt module will accept the lenses that you sell, but I had to take a wooden dowel to push up in there and kind of like basically hit it to get that lens to pop out because it had some either hot glue or super glue or something on it. And it was a little loose inside the other carrier, but once I got it up on there, it did engage the brass stud that sticks out enough to hold it secure so it's not bouncing around. And there's an O-ring that stays on the brass stud that helps secure it. So they're a little smaller, I think it is, smaller than what came out of it, but it did work. We got it back in there. He said his machine's cutting again, so if anybody asks you, I can tell you they will work with the ComGrow 20 watt. But
Yeah,
like I said, that they're gonna be smaller, but when you put the O-ring and everything back together, it works.
yeah. A lot of the lenses are ending up getting glued in or siliconed in, so a little bit of acetone helps loosen that up if you've got the time to let it soak. Um,
I just use brute force.
yeah, and you can do that too. Otherwise, the so like on the X tool, that's why I provide the two different O rings. So in some of them, they're just gluing that in and not adding like the brass ring to hold it down. And so when you put that O ring in on top of the lens, when you screw that onto the brass end of the module, that just snugs it up against the base of the cup that you're screwing on and holds it in place. So, and yeah, they are a little bit smaller than the stock lenses, just to give a little bit of ease in putting them in and out. So, but yeah, once you get it snug down, it's fine. I mean, it's literally just a clear piece of glass to keep debris and whatnot out. So,
Yeah, I had the old one laying here on the table, but I think I threw it away last night. I was going to show it to you. Oh, not cutting straight down. Looks like they're cutting a slight angle. Sounds like if your machine's not cutting squares or not cutting circles, you're going to need to look at your belts and your timing linkage. That's always the problem with that. Now, Penny, it's probably going to be the like I said, the belts or the timing linkage, one of the two.
Well, and if it's the top to bottom, um, you can double check your focus because there is an hourglass shape, as Chris mentioned, to the focus of the lens, and the thicker the material you use, the more you're going to see that, and that's why you would want to get your focal point kind of in the middle of your material, which will help offset that. And you would also want to try to make sure that there's not a twist to your laser head, and or that your surface is parallel to your gantry as well. Any of those things that's offsetting the material from your laser could affect that top down cut as well.
Oh my! I thought she meant it was cutting like not straight, like at an angle, like not that the cut itself was angled.
Right.
I guess it would depend on which angle she's talking about. But she said she thinks it's the honeycombs off a little bit, so I think she's talking about X and Y, not so much as the Z. But yeah, those are all considerations if you're having problems with your cuts. Oh, if it's a new machine, I would definitely check those. Is it a she? Is Penny a she? I don't know. Maybe Penny isn't. The laser head seems so lean. Yeah.
Yeah, I checked to make sure that that all the mounting points are tight and nothing's off there. If it's way off, then that's going to be a mechanical issue that's going to be addressed by the manufacturer and such. But um, double check that everything that's holding it in place is kind of locked in solid and not askew.
What kind of machine is it? Is it an X tool? Because you remember that time that my module about fell out of my X tool, and I found that little grub screw that was under a sticker.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a similar issue then. My focus was just all over the place. That's why I'm wondering if it was an X tool or not. Because there is that little grub screw that's hidden on an X tool, and you can loosen it, and it'll allow the module to move around inside the chassis. So,
yeah, I've also seen somewhere one of the roller wheels was loose, and it was allowing the laser to kind of sit at a funny angle until you snugged it up. So, just some of those things can be off.
okay, I thought I was right. But yeah, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I mean, it's a machine, but typically speaking, as long as everything's tight and in alignment, you should be good. But I haven't ever had one cut like that, except for, like I said, the X tool when that grub screw fell out. All right, Brian, what you need a link for?
He's talking about a post he did for his solution of not cutting squares.
Oh, Adam
And he
Stack
says it's
X20.
Next 20 Pro.
You're more familiar with a 20, which I guess is the same, isn't it?
It's the same as the 30. So it builds the same as the 30. So I'm trying to think. I don't have it in front of me, of course. Double check that your all the wheels are on smoothly. If one is kind of offset a little bit, like it's not tightened down, that could cause an effect.
Yeah, the Adam Stacks, it's got the three wheels that slide back and forth. And I'm sitting here looking at mine. And yeah, if one of those wheels is too tight and the other one's too loose, or if one of them's just too loose, it could cause that head to cant slightly one way or the other. So you're definitely going to want to check those roller wheels. because I'm sitting here looking at mine, and that is about the only thing I see that could be causing it. Because the other has got the big nut in the front of it that you tighten up, and that thing goes straight into the back. So unless there's some slop there, maybe. But yeah, I think your calculation about the wheels is probably what's causing it. When I focus it and pull up the tool for the laser head, the front seems to drop. Maybe, are you over tightening it? There's a chance you could be over tightening that screw and making it cant just a little bit.
I would maybe double check even the eccentric nut on the bottom one. Make sure that what you're going for is that it just snugs the wheel up to the rail, that it's not too tight or too loose. If it was too loose, you could get a little bit of play in there, and that could cause it to drop a little bit after removing that tool. It seems like there's something mechanically slightly off there. Otherwise, I would take the laser head off and just kind of wiggle that plate around, see if there's any play at all. That should be pretty solid. That would kind of help narrow it down from the actual plate versus the module.
Swain Smart LC40. Ever heard of it, Steve? I haven't. Yeah, I'd have to look that one up. I can't say I've ever seen that one. We've been finding out about brands of lasers that we didn't know exist for about the past 2 weeks now. Was that the Whizmaker? Don't you have one of those, or have one of those coming?
I believe there's one coming, but I haven't seen it yet. So is that the Sane Smart, the Genmitsu LC40? Is that the?
Probably. It says Swain Smart, but that sounds about right. It's a LC40 is what he's got in the comment here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, trouble. If you're running at 20 hours a week, you better stay on top of maintenance. That's a lot of running.
It's a part-time job.
Yeah. Which model insulate you should order for the Acer?
I'm pretty sure from my testing, both the 20 and the 10 are the same. I can't verify the 40 because I don't have that module. There's actually a guy on Etsy that sells just the brass sleeves as well as an aftermarket. So it's the sleeve with the nut. Last time I checked, he's out of stock. But if you get one for the 10 or the 20 watt, you should be fine. I know those fit. I've swapped mine around quite a bit in testing.
Yeah, well, and my thoughts on that is there's really not any need to make that any bigger, because as a manufacturer, you can just continue to use parts that you already have. It's still plenty big enough for the laser to come through, and it's not like they have a focus lens or anything like that goes in there. So I would imagine they would all be the same.
You would think, but they sometimes go out of their way to make sure to shut down aftermarket accessories.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got one or two of them around here that are different. You can't get to them to change anything. The only time I have found that I actually have to use constant power mode is on the Mon port cutting stencil material. Because if I don't put it on constant power mode, when it makes those turns, because I'm trying to run a really low power to get a nice clean cut, and when it makes those turns and it backs off the power a little bit, I wind up with tabs in the corners. That's the only application for constant power mode I have found. And that's cutting this stuff right here. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of the same thing. I've done it mostly on troubleshooting CO2 lasers at lower powers. So,
yeah. But see, when I'm cutting these little stencils out, if I don't run constant power, like on the ears of the pig or something like that, where it changes directions, it'll leave a little tab. But that's because I'm running very, very low power to keep from melting this stuff, because This is the stencil plastic. If you go too hot, it will melt. If you don't go hot enough, it won't come apart. So I'm gonna try to do a video on this. This is actually pretty cool. A buddy of mine asked me if I could make these, and he's wanting to start buying some. And I found out that I could with the Monport, so that was pretty neat. Yeah. Yeah, that would be the only time I would say is when if you have problems with it not cutting all the way through in the corners. I mean, because I can't really. I've never run across another situation where I needed to use it. Well, thank you, Skip. He said, "You guys, not Steve's beard, too, by the way." I can't believe Brian's not here crying about you cutting your beard.
Well, it's growing. It'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I have never tried JD. I've never tried the Sane Smart or the Jimitsu or the Jinsoku. So I can't really speak to those machines. I will tell you that generally speaking, the design elements of almost all the machines I've tried, the design elements are the same. Some put a little better quality, some put a little more attention to detail. The biggest differences I see in machines is going to be, of course, the bells and whistles and cable management. Some of these machines, the cable management was not very well thought out. Now, some of the more recent machines have had really excellent cable management because I've gotten used to using these machines that have excellent cable management. And my X tool messed up a design last night because it's dragging the cable across the material. And I've gotten so used to not having to worry about that I put the material too close to the edge of the machine and it caught it and drug it. So I had to start over.
So Skip was saying that the LC40 begins a burn, then stops and begins a burn again, and then later also mentions it's not very consistent burn. I guess is it still in motion and it stops burning? If so, I would be double checking the connections for the laser wire. Usually there's 2 to 4 wires that go to that laser module. I would double check those connections and make sure those are good anywhere they make a joint. That would be where I would start if it is still in motion, but the laser module itself is stopping. He says it's still in motion. So that would be the first thing I would check on there. And then no frayed wires, connections are okay. Yeah, I don't. From there, you could double check and see, if changing power settings helps, whether the thing's overheating or maybe it's too low of a power setting and it's cutting in and out. It could be the possibility that it's just a bad module. But I would go and try to trouble. Sounds like you've checked all the mechanical connections first. That's where I'd always start first. From there, I would see if there's any consistency at different power levels or speeds, whether it's engraving versus not engraving. If it's a time thing, a certain amount, you could definitely do that with material tests, both on cutting and engraving. It'll help you see what it's doing at different power, as well as throughout the cut. Unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit of trial and error to see if there's any sort of consistency with it. But if you've done the basics of checking the mechanics of it and the electrical connections and such, hopefully whoever the seller or the manufacturer is would provide you some support in troubleshooting whether it's a bad module or board.
Well, I think the same thing that you are, Steve. It could be that the module is getting too hot. So if you backed it down to like a 30% and just set it up to do a line and see if it has that same behavior. If it doesn't have that same behavior, running like 30% or 50%, then you kind of eliminate the chance of it being a mechanical issue, like Steve said, with wire being loose or something like that. Because if it runs consistently and does a good job at lower power settings, then to me, the two things that would cause it to work perfect on lower power and not on higher power is going to be either low power input to the module or heat buildup and it's cutting itself off to keep from overheating. So I would try to walk that power up and see see at what point you hit that threshold, and you might, if you have the capabilities, you might want to check your power supply and make sure your power supply is not bad. Uh, and your power coming out of your power supply could be going up and down, causing it some issues. That would be what I would check if I had it here in the shop. And I didn't ask, because you run it on Lightburn, or are you using a different software? Because that would be a variable too. Do, do, do. Hit the fire button. Yeah, Jack, you can do the fire as stationary, but you better make sure you got some wood or something under there, or some metal. I did one the other day. I forgot I didn't have a honeycomb down. I burned a hole in my table. That's tiny.
Well, it's a lot different when you're troubleshooting a 150 watt laser tube. That got a little interesting today at times.
Nobody lost any fingers. It's a good day, though, right?
Correct. There were
that's good.
No appendages burned. There's just material we weren't expecting to burn.
Skip, go in and make sure that something crazy hasn't happened with your S value in Lightburn. Because will it allow you to put a value in higher than 1,000 that could be overdriving the LED?
Well, I mean, some of them even driving it at 1,000, if it's not designed for that. That would be something to confirm with the manufacturer as far as what it should be. In some of those cases, it's even just resetting it. Set up a new profile in Lightburn, reload your laser, have it pull it from the machine again. But
yeah,
here's
may need to throttle it a little bit. If it is heat related or power related, you could technically drop the S value to cut the power back on it and correct the issue to where it would run. You'd lose power, but power's no good if it's not going to cut a straight line.
So the question was asked, are we using orange acrylic or laser grade window glass on the enclosure? And you've used both, right?
Yeah, but I've went over it's the price difference is not enough really for me to not use laser safe. So I've went to the last 4 enclosures I've built, I've used laser safe glass from JTech Photonics.
Yeah, so
it's $33 a sheet for a 12 by 24.
And that's the most economical way to purchase it in the United States, at least, is through JTech Photonics. They're out of Texas, so there is some shipping involved with it, but it's about $35 a sheet plus a little bit of shipping for a 12 by 24, and that is tested and rated for the diode laser of 450 nanometer plus or minus 5. And it's got an optical density rating of 3. Now, generally, they recommend you have an optical density rating of 4 for the type of lasers we're using, but it's far better than just colored acrylic. That is going to block some of the light, but it hasn't been tested. You don't know where it's at. So, no, the glasses that both Clack and I wear and recommend from Free Mascot, those are the same style, but they are rated at optical density of 6, and that's just the amount of light that it blocks at that wavelength. So,
yep, and mine look cool. So, I like my glasses. Use constant power mode. I thought I answered that a while ago. Jim, were you not paying attention? Did we catch you on a bathroom break? The only time I've found to use constant power mode, Jim, my experience is cutting this little thin plastic stencil material, because I was having some problems with the cut not completely cutting when it turned. But that's with the CO2, and that's with some material that very few people ever cut. So, but Has Steve? Have you had any situations to where you run it?
Like I mentioned earlier, really it was just troubleshooting a couple of CO2 lasers as far as trying to get some consistency in the engraving, and it was removing a variable. Not too often that I proactively turn it off myself. So,
Oh, there's a question for Steve. Steve's gonna get on. He's gonna get in the weeds on this one, guys.
you know,
Hold on.
I'm on vacation, you know.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not it. That's not it. They keep moving on me. Well, did it get deleted?
Yeah,
Could have.
as far as shipping on that acrylic,
There it is.
great if you could, if you got someone near you that needs some, you can double it up, or if you want to order some extra because you decide you're going to extend it later or buy a second one. It's not much more to ship two than one. So, X Tools selling laser safe vinyl. Has anyone tried it? Honestly, I don't. I don't buy a lot of their material packs or anything like that. So I haven't really tested a lot of their products other than or their consumable products other than the stuff they've sent. So I can't speak to it. Um, there are some laser safe vinyls, and they're not the only seller of it. But um, I don't know. I think if you're doing one or two for yourself, and that's all you're going to do, it might be worth it. Otherwise, if you feel you're going to do a lot of it, definitely look into a dedicated vinyl cutter. They're not that expensive, and then you're you're going to save money on the vinyl in the long run.
I see somebody commenting down there that it was $112 for a 12 by 12. Hello, Steve. Did you
Excuse
mute
me.
us?
Yeah, I
I
needed to
thought
take a
I
drink there.
thought my computer had died.
Um,
Somebody's saying it was $119 for a 12 by 12, but I was fixing to
that
pull that up.
that
That's
seems really
not.
high,
Yeah, it hadn't been that long since I bought some.
but
Oh,
it depends on where you're located. I think some people in Canada were looking there. The shipping was
oh,
pretty painful.
yeah, yeah. That's true. I didn't think about that. Uh, the 24 by 12 currently, 250 nanometers to 520 nanometers, is currently listed at $33.99 on JTech Photonics. Now that's plus shipping. Uh, but usually when I order it, I'll just go ahead and order like two or three pieces, just because if somebody I know or if I want to build an enclosure, I like to go ahead and just get a little extra for my shipping if I can. Now you don't always want to buy an extra $33 item, but it's kind of nice when you need a piece and you don't have to pay that shipping. But there's the link to the glass that I use right there. And they do accept PayPal. That was kind of convenient as well when I went to purchasing because I've had to purchase it and I'm fixing to have to build another enclosure, so I'm gonna be buying some more of it.
So for me, um, one thing to check is their default shipping is priority mail, and for shipping up to Minnesota, one sheet of 24 by 12 was going to be 25.90, but if you select UPS ground, it drops down to 16.21. So yeah, one sheet would end up being $50.20. But if I go with two, then the shipping slowly updates. The shipping is the same.
Yeah, the shipping's the same up until a
So,
certain weight, so you shouldn't have any problems.
you know,
Because when they shipped mine, it came in if I want to say it came in a padded envelope. I don't think it was in a box. The last one I ordered, I think it came in just a padded envelope with some bubble wrap in there. But yeah, Chris, I agree. I started off when I first started off. I tried saving $5 or $10 and using the just regular acrylic, and it only took a couple of times of me forgetting to put my glasses on and looking that way that I was like, you know what, the orange acrylic it's a matter of, you know, if it doesn't work, it could cause me a lot more trouble than that $10 or $15 I'm saving. So I went ahead after that enclosure. I've put laser safe and everything else that I've built. So Yeah, Brian, that's what I say. That's why I buy extra because it's a matter of time before I'm building another enclosure because it's addictive. Uh, you're not. I don't know very many people that have got diodes that had them for a while that haven't gotten another diode. I know Steve's got several. I've
I,
I've got a few.
I plead the fifth.
I've got a few.
Um, yeah, it's one of those areas. I know it's kind of expensive, and hopefully you can get the shipping down. But even $50 for one sheet, I figure it's a layer of protection that has a little more guarantee to it that it's been tested and at least gives me a rating that I can hopefully expect out of it. Um, $50 is not a whole lot to pay to hopefully prevent some high damage. So
I'm trying to get a link for somebody. I'm having a hunt for a video.
yeah, and Mark, he's got the same problem you should have. Is he needs room for a CNC? So he can't have two lasers.
Well, since I got the AC installed, technically the wood heater isn't going to be as critical to my operation. And with the wood heater leaving, also the firewood rack can leave. So that's cleared up. I'm going to say probably about 8 or so feet of wall over there.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be a remodel in the future.
We'll see. We'll see how the weather is when I get back home. I want to do some rearranging and some shuffling in my shop as well, and
Yeah,
I
Brian.
definitely want to get back to some more doing some more CNC work along with the lasers. So maybe that'll help push you over the edge.
Yeah, Brian, I don't think you understand. There is nowhere, there is no more room. There is stuff everywhere. I have no more floor space. I have trails. That's all I have. That's my air conditioner, and it works nice. Uh, and there's a couple of lasers back there, guys. Just a couple. But yeah, I would love to get me a CNC, and I've been looking at them. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know that Two Trees actually makes them until I got this machine, started doing some research.
Well,
But
I think
they're
you need to.
small.
I think you need to go check out our friend Dave Gatton. He's been playing with the Sane Smart. They're 4040, which is a nice little unit, and he did on their live stream last night. They did a nice alligator, a 3D relief carving of an alligator swimming through water, and which I thanked them for, having freshly arrived in Florida that night. I needed another reminder of the dinosaurs that I don't have to deal with up in Minnesota. But yeah, no, it's. I think you'd have fun with him, but yeah, you're right. You've got some tight space there that you'd have to do some rearranging with first. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to stop poking you.
Yeah. Well, trouble. I will. Which now it's been weird here lately. The weather. I don't know where our spring went to, but we got Steve's spring or something. It's been like 68 to 70 degrees here. But currently it's actually 69 degrees here in the shack. And it's nice. But I will tell you this, Trouble. I went online, looked at Amazon, looked at a lot of places, but I wound up going through Home Depot because I have my pro account at Home Depot where I buy all my lumber and stuff. And wound up buying that thing, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was like $1,300, but I got lucky. I have a family member who knows how to put these things in. He's certified, got all the tools. So I did most of the legwork. I poured my little slab for it to sit on. I put the conduit down. I drug the wire, got it into the box, went ahead and snapped the breaker in there. I mean, I had everything basically to where he just had to do the final connectivity and pull the vacuum on it and all that. So I saved the install price, but it cost me $1,300. But my wife said that we'll save that in copays for me having to go to the ER and get rehydrated and get fluids because last year I wound up in the ER with a kidney stone, and the doctor, when I walked in, basically told me that if you don't get away from that sawmill, start taking more breaks and drink more water, you're going to be right back here next year. So that's my goal this year, is no kidney stones, because that was not an experience I care to relive.
Well, you saw the jug of water I'm traveling with, so keeping myself
that, was
hydrated.
a, that was not a jug, dude. We call that a keg down here. That was a keg. Guys, y'all should have seen this. I should have took a picture of it. But dude's got, like, in his van, he has got one of the big water bottles, like it's in the break room at work. You know what I'm talking about? Like 5-gallon water bottles. And it has like it almost looked like a tap for a keg down in the top of it. That was like battery operated or something. So he's got like this self-serve 5-gallon water dispenser in his truck that's like, I'm pretty sure it was refrigerated. I'm not sure, but I think it was even refrigerated somehow.
Well, the water wasn't,
Uh,
but the cooler was. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and he's got like battery operated cooler in the back floor running off of a solar powered power cell. And I mean, it looked like he was getting ready to like live off the grid or something, which I guess technically you were.
Well, I kind of have been this week. Yep, I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure I had access to some healthy food on my trip and make sure I could stay hydrated. So yeah, made sure that I had all that with me. And
Oh, but you found out too that Minnesota sunblock is not the same as Southeast United States sunblock,
no,
didn't you?
sunblock that's been through a Minnesota winter is not advisable for jumping down into southern Georgia sun. Yeah, I went and got a bottle of 100 SPF stuff right away because I was crispy after the first day. So
I noticed you were a little pigmently challenged when you were here. I was wondering how that was going to fare for you.
I was the northern White Walker, yes. But
Test grid for sublimation on MDF. Well, that depends. Depends on a lot of things. Starting power and speed for engraving or cutting? Cutting test grid? MDF? It's obviously going to be 100%. If it's MDF, depending on which machine it's going to be, you're going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 passes on 1/4 inch. Need to know the thickness, output of the machine, and we can get you close, but you're still going to need to do some testing. Sharon, I think Sharon got an Acer. I think we've talked to Sharon before. Is it a P20? Let me go get my speed test.
it sounds great. So, and,
I'm wanting to say Sharon has told us she's got a P20, but I could be wrong.
and Dave's asking if I was in Minnesota. I normally am, but right now I am down in the southeast on a bit of a road trip. So I'll be heading back to the cooler temperatures of Minnesota spring shortly.
All right. So this is 1/4 inch MDF right here. X-Tool 10 watt. Ooh, 1/8 inch. Probably pretty close. But you're going to want to run. Hopefully, you got air assist. I'd strongly recommend air assist for MDF. It's my experience that it will burn rather easy. And doing 2 passes, maybe 4 millimeters per second at 100%, and try it 2 passes and see if that works. But you're going to want to do a test grid. So do a test grid, but make sure you run air assist and have your little, you see my little spray bottle right there. Have your water-filled spray bottle handy when doing a speed test on this stuff, because I'm telling you, it will start burning, and you won't know it's burning until it starts turning black. But I would say that would probably be a good start-off point. Maybe put that in the middle of your test grid. But you don't want to go. What you don't want to do is go way too slow. Because I seen the other day where somebody burnt their machine up trying to go way too slow with no air assist, and apparently wasn't watching it because the laser looked like it was in a house fire, but it was just the module. Yeah, I looked at a machine, a CNC like yours the other day, Steve. But until I win the lottery, I'm gonna have to hold off on that.
Uh, as far as the laser conversion to CNC, I've seen more of the CNC mills converted to plasma cutters. Um, they tend to be more suited for moving a little more weight around because a lot of them will use like your typical palm router as a spindle, and whereas these smaller lasers really don't have a whole lot of weight to that head, and so I think you'd run into some issues with that trying to move that around too much. But it technically wouldn't be too difficult. The biggest issue would be making sure that you have some sort of way of triggering the plasma cutter on and off for the cuts. So, but it's definitely possible.
Jeff said he's dual watching. When we get bored, he goes back and forth. I don't think we get boring myself. That's just me, Jeff. I'm biased. I mean, I just don't think so. But yeah, Troublemaker's right as far as the settings goes on that. What works for my machine and your machine is not always going to be exactly the same. So that's why I recommend anytime, and Steve's a big advocate of it too, just go ahead and do a power test. It doesn't have to be a huge one, it doesn't have to be a big one, but go ahead and do your speed and power test just so that you know what your machine will do. And even the materials, just because the material came from the same store, it doesn't mean it's the same batch. And if it's a different batch, you may have got the Monday glue mix guy or the Friday glue mix guy, and there's going to be consistencies in the material as well. So, yeah, Brian, it's also faster if you do faster speeds first. You get your speed test done a lot faster, but you definitely don't want to go too slow, especially with the without air assist.
Yeah, it's okay to look at other people's tests as kind of a baseline to kind of narrow down your band, but definitely you want to, um, have a. I wouldn't have it too narrow to start with, but if you've got someone else who has a 10-watt laser, similar setup to yours, and you're going to start getting a feeling for approximately where it's going to cut, and that can get you kind of dialed in to maybe a band of, if you're millimeters a minute, you might be within 100 to 200 that you can go off of. Otherwise, yeah, you want to start out with a pretty broad stroke and kind of dial it in from there.
Yep. It's a good reference, like Brian said and Chris. I mean, it's a good reference, but it's not gonna put you dead on the money. Even how clean your lens is going to make a difference. If your buddy doesn't clean his lens regularly and you do, that's going to make a difference. So, well, if you're that was actually a pretty decent size event that we went to yesterday, but the Peach Jam is much larger, and I'm going to try to take my drone to the Peach Jam too, so that while I'm there, I can sneak in a flight. I didn't take it the other day to the other event. Be honest with you, I just didn't think about it, and it was all under trees, so it wouldn't have been a whole lot you could have seen. Because I can't, fly through the crowd.
I think a lot of times some of those smaller town festivals sometimes actually get a bigger crowd like that, whereas sometimes in the bigger towns, it's more of a niche group. That there's probably a stronger sense of community. People like, hey, this is going on, let's go out and check it out. Versus, oh, I didn't even know that was happening in maybe a larger community. So sometimes getting into those, small town fairs and such can be better.
Trouble I was, but both of the jobs behind me have finished, and I cut the machines off. But I've got jobs I need to be doing. But I'm hoping that this week I can get them done because I've got till I think May the 5th to have a really big job done, and I'm running a little behind. I don't like cutting it this close.
As far as so Deborah's asking about a good supplier for laser parts, cables, belts, and wheels, and honestly, a lot of that stuff is kind of off the shelf parts. and they're available on eBay, Amazon, um, from a number of resellers. You just wanted to kind of double check your belts will usually have like a code on there that will say kind of the width and the pitch of the teeth, um, and so you want to kind of check that to make sure you're getting the same one. Uh, Wheels tend to be a couple different sizes, but they're out there. Um, so honestly, a lot of that stuff, unless it's very specific to the machine, I go back to the reseller. I can find on Amazon and eBay pretty easily. So,
She may be talking about me. I I get sitting still. I start. I'm like a shark. I have to keep moving. If I sit still too long, I start yawning. Um, Skip saying that his lens has a rainbow color around the glass, and asked if that's normal. I have my opinion, but I'll let you explain it because you probably have a better explanation than I do.
it depends on the so if we're talking about the cover lens and not the focus lens, there are some that are made. They have like a coating on them to kind of help keep debris and whatnot off of it. Um, Generally, as you clean it a few times, that will start to wear off and spread around a little bit. You might see some color changing from that. If you're talking about a focus lens on a laser, some of those do have a bit of a tint and coloring to them. Um, so what you're really looking for is a discoloration and or actual like markings or burnings in them. That can be considered damage. And then if that's not coming clean, or if it's leaving like a an etched mark where it maybe had smoke or debris on it and that got cleaned off, but there's still a bit of a marking on there. Yeah, that are going to be impeding your light transfer, and would need to look at maybe replacing it. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, I have noticed on. I think it's my X tool. It's got just a little bit of, and I don't know if it's because maybe they're using ceramic glass instead of like plexiglass or whatever. Maybe it's some kind of mineral glass. But I think it may be associated with the heat because it almost looks kind of like uh, the it got hot at one point and it kind of gave it that hue. But as long as the discoloration, from what I can tell on mine, it's not where the beam's coming out. So I haven't noticed any negative effects on the burn. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if it's the one that my buddy brought over here the other day, it was obvious. It had like a white dot right in the middle of it. So
Hmm.
there was no, I don't know how he didn't see it when he cleaned it because he claims he cleaned it, but I think maybe he didn't have his glasses on when he cleaned it. But he sent me a picture of it, and I was like, dude, it looks like there's a grain of rice in the middle of your lens. That is definitely going to be the problem.
Yeah, so that's
And
usually
so we
left
got it fixed.
when there was some sort of marking or debris on there, and then it's similar to if you put tempera paint on glass to engrave it. That's basically the same effect that's going on there. So if it's a rainbow color across the whole lens, I'm guessing it's more of just a coating that's okay that's be there. But if you're getting a more of an etching or a cloud, that looks like maybe cloudy or dark, then that can be an issue. One thing to do is you can try to wipe it off with alcohol. That might help it a bit. Um, but you could actually soak it overnight in some acetone, polish remover. That should really do more of a deep clean on it. That may or may not remove whatever you're seeing. But if you're then seeing those etch marks afterwards, then it might be an issue. So, okay, so it says it's more towards the outside of the lens, and I would be less concerned about that. That's probably just a coating, or like Clack said, some a little bit of heat dissipation type thing on there. So,
Yeah, Petey, I probably should have taken a nap today, but I don't know. But if I get to sitting still too long, and I can tell I've been sitting here for a little while, and today I haven't done a whole lot. I ate a really big lunch. And then I went to Denny's birthday party and they had tacos, so I ate tacos there. So I probably just need a good nap. That's probably it. Or need to get to work, one.
depending on your camera, 14 inches
Mm.
should be decent if that's your clearance from where the camera's going to sit down to the surface of your material. Usually, I'm finding for your typical cameras that are being provided by manufacturers, I'm actually ending up around the 12-inch mark for where I'm setting it, and sometimes even moving it a little bit closer. I would think 14 inches should be plenty enough, unless it's a really tight field of view. But I, you know, I wouldn't think you'd have problems at that.
Yeah. I was going to show you. I've got mine pulled up. I need to put it on the other screen where you can see it. But I've got a couple of different cameras. The fisheye, if you're concerned about it, the fisheye lenses typically require, or they're a little more forgiving. Let me swap to screens. Let me swap up screen share. There we go. This is the X-Tool D1 enclosure, which I'm cutting out some circles, guys. These are for baseballs, by the way. There you go. But I've also got the enclosure that is in EnclosureZilla over there. Oh, y'all can't see that. Hang on. That is a classified burn. Give me a minute here. Oh, let me get that off of there. I can't release that. May will get mad at me. That's something I'm working on for her. Those are classified. It's classified. It's G14. You can't know about it. Let me just start a new project. There we go. That got rid of that. So we can go back to it now. All right. So what in the world? Windows, quit. So this is a fisheye camera, and you can see, well, no, you can't see. Hang on. Can you make me bigger, Steve? Hang on. No, wrong button. They should make this easier. Why you gotta drag and drop everything? Oh my gosh. There we go. See, I was hoping you would do that for me.
Yeah.
But as you can see, this is a fisheye camera that's in that enclosure. And dang it, you can still see the stuff. But that's what, well, at least you can't tell because I picked it up and dropped it a while ago. So you can't tell what it is. But as you can see, that's a 37-inch workspace, and it includes the entire workspace. So we're good on that. But yeah, maybe that's not revealing too much for May. But that's a project I'm working on for her. She requested it. I built it from scratch, built the design, and I'm cutting out 80 of those things. And it's a job. Well, y'all have a good one. Who said?
Yeah, Penny's got to go. Thanks for stopping by, Penny. It was great to see you here
again. Yeah, my wife's trying to make fun of me. She went like gallivanting off to a conference, and I spent the week last week getting up at like 2 hours earlier than I normally get up. So, yeah, if I had some snacks out here, Norbert, that would be nice. I need to get me some. I like my honey roasted peanuts. I need to get some of those and put out here. Actually, I need some more drinks. What I need, I'm out of tea. Hang on. I text the wife and be like, "Hey, bring me some tea." I gotta get me a bigger refrigerator out here. But anyways, what else? Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Mark was asking about a camera that would fit inside the X-Tool enclosure. You would have to go with a fisheye similar to what Clack is using there, because that is pretty shallow. I'd be concerned. You'd also have to make sure there's some light in there. They don't include any light, so you'd want to brighten it up a little bit. So I don't. And then if you raise it up for anything, that's only going to bring it closer. But the stock one from them isn't going to work. You're definitely going to need to look at a fisheye one to try to cover that bed.
Yeah, now I've got the fisheye in the portable Clack Shack, and it's only 11 inches, I think, and it works. It works really well. Now it starts getting a little hinky around the outer edges of the workspace, but I've actually got one of them right here. These are the ones that I use. This is actually the one out of the portable Clack Shack because I was trying to use it with the Monport, but it didn't work to my liking, so I took it back out. And I'm going to put it back in my other enclosure. But it's just a little board camera. I get these on Amazon. If you go to my channel and look at Ikea just search cameras, light burn cameras. I've tried 3 or 4 different ones, and I actually ordered another one of these the other day, and they sent me a flat lens, which is okay because it's a pretty wide angle flat lens. Uh, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as well in probably my next enclosure build.
Um, yeah, Mark, LED light strip would work well. As far as the location, you could actually, if you could mount it on a something that would kind of stick out, even as you flip it up, you could probably get it a little more centered. So you'd need to be able to like maybe attach it to a stick, a paint stick or something to bring it forward and from that bend, and then try to make sure it's secured well enough. The problem with that enclosure is it's not very rigid. So I'd be concerned about the top moving around on you and losing its alignment and configuration. So it's a nice enclosure for being portable, but that also means it's not as consistently, when dealing with the camera, it's gonna move around a bit unless you can attach the camera to the actual frame of the laser. So
Hey, instead of a popsicle, you could use a Clack Shack camera extension.
there you go.
That's black acrylic, and I created a little file. The way these lenses work, they've got a little raised part right here. It's got like ears on it, and the camera kind of snaps in there. And I use some double-sided adhesive to hold the camera to these little pieces of acrylic, and then I can cut those and make them like if I need to extend it out from an enclosure, you can attach it here. I burn holes in here for either a screw or zip tie, or you can use adhesive, whatever. But yeah, I use these in my enclosures, and you can cut them from black acrylic, orange, or any color that you can cut with a diode. And if you want to break out of CO2, you can even make them out of clear acrylic. But they're pretty handy. It's an easy file to come up with. You just got to measure and make it to where the camera basically snaps in to the hole right there. So, but yeah, it's hey, lasers make things possible, guys. As I said, that's my little Clack Shack. It's one of my 4 or 5 different camera mounts that I have, and that camera actually works pretty well.
Yeah, Mark, I think you'd have a lot more luck, working with a more rigid enclosure. It'll give you some more flexibility for things like lighting and maybe even upgrading your exhaust venting. The X12 one's nice as far as portability, and if you don't have anything, it's quick and easy to put together. But once you start finding the other things you want, it does kind of limit you a little bit.
Yeah, the cloth enclosures and the portable enclosures have their place, in my opinion. But when you get to the point to where you got your machine set up and you're trying to do like business level stuff, they get in the way, especially the ones with the zippers. I mean, that's a big inconvenience to unzip and zip. They have their place. Like I said, if you're one of those guys that just gets your stuff out occasionally and sets it on a table outside or something like that, they have their place. But when you're going to do a lot of it, nothing takes the place of being able to just grab a door and raise it and not have to worry about anything moving or getting shifted. Because one more thing with the camera in a not as secure of an enclosure is if that enclosure moves, the camera's going to move. And so it's going to be really hard to maintain your settings on your camera to have a decent level of accuracy. And I've used about every cloth enclosure on the market, and it's just, they have a place. Like I said, if you don't have room for a big enclosure or don't have the budget for it. But custom built enclosures are the way to go, in my opinion. Even if it's nothing but like I've seen a lot of guys using old cabinets or recycled boxes, or going to Home Depot and getting a cabinet that's already put together. That to me is an improvement from a cloth.
Yeah, it can be. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody saw my stuff. Somebody said nothing like putting an eye bolt in the side of your enclosure to hold your glasses. I got all kinds of stuff hanging off my enclosure, guys. I mean, it serves as cabinet space. I mean, you gotta use every inch. All right, guys. Well, we are coming up on 2 hours, and y'all know I'd already been yawning, and it's been a long weekend. I don't know. I just feel a little drained this weekend. I need to be cutting some more stuff, but not going to be doing it.
Hey,
Anthony, I
Jason,
thought
did you just join us? We're doing all right.
I found there. Somebody asked me if I saw a question.
Anthony's asking about cutting MDF, quarter-inch MDF on HRB35.
Yeah, I thought I replied to that. I thought I replied to it. Oh, if you didn't get my reply, I'm pretty sure I tried to reply. Let's put it that way. But yeah, if you're having a problem with the Acer cutting through stuff when you first get it out of the box, I learned this from a friend of mine, Steve. Check your S value, because I have known uh, 3 machines so far that somehow during the light burn setup there was a little bit of a hitch, and the S value was set to like 250, which is technically only a quarter of the output of the machine. And wasn't that what yours was set to, Steve? Was 250?
Yeah, I had one of them set to 250. Yep.
So check your S value. S value, focus, and lens. That are the three things that I'm pretty sure I replied, but I may not have. Sometimes I think I replied when I don't, or I didn't hit the button to send the email. Okay, I'm trying to read these comments, guys. Well, hey, Brian, I think Steve's the one that mentioned it the other day, but if you haven't tried the green for like test burns and stuff, I checked some green the other day on a Tumblr video I did, and it actually does a really good job, and it doesn't stink as bad. The frog tape did not stink as bad as the blue tape for some reason. So you might want to try that. I bought 2 rolls of the green stuff now. What is the S value? All right, hang on. Let me get my machine back up. Let's go into the X tool. Here we go. Screen share. All right. Let me do this. All right. Oh, why in the world? All right, there we go. It always wants to do that. All right, when you go into your machine and you go into settings right here, you're going to want to go to edit, and it's device settings for the S value. Yes. Right here is the S value. Typically speaking, every machine, let's put it this way, every machine that I've dealt with so far, the S value needs to be at 1,000 for the laser head to output 100%. So if your S value is set to 250, basically that's kind of like putting a throttle on your machine. It's throttling it to where it will not let it go past 250, which would be about 25%. So you're going to want to make sure that this is set correctly. And if you hover over this, it's also going to tell you to make sure that that matches the $30 settings in Laser Garble. And the way you're going to want to do that is go over here, go to File, and you're going to go to Machine Settings, and scroll down until you find $30, which is this one right here, and make sure that it is also set to 1,000. And that basically is unthrottling your module. If you put that to anything less than 1,000, you're cutting back your maximum output of that laser. So there we go. Oh, look, I got the whole screen to myself. There you go. That's what the S value is. That's what we're calling Anthony Edwards Goose. Huh? What did Anthony do? I missed something. They called him Goose. What did he do? Missed it. All right. If you hadn't already, guys, please, 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 please hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I know Brian is subscribed and I know there's a lot of you guys that are subscribed, but if you aren't, feel free to do so. And also, if you haven't, hit that like with one pass, 86% power. Oh, you did cut through it. Okay, my bad. I thought I may have misread that. But yeah, why are you running 86% power, not 100? You could go even faster. but but if you hadn't already, hit those like buttons and thumbs up. Go join the Laser Engraver community group, and I don't think we've thrown that out here yet. And like I said, Steve's been a little bit away here lately because of his travels. But hopefully he'll be back in his shop pretty soon because he's going to have work piled up and he's not going to be able to get caught up.
Yeah, I got day job work and I've got YouTube work. I'm going to be busy when I get home. So,
well, so far you've had a good trip. You had any mechanical issues or road rage incidents or anything like that. So that's good.
No, it's been smooth going so far. But I've got the fast route home right now is about 1,400 almost 1,500 miles, and I'm probably not going to go that route. So I got.
Well, you'll figure it out.
But I'll get myself back up to the Great White Frozen North and get back on it.
Well, if you need a layover up here in Alabama, let me know. But you're really not that far from me right now. That's the sad part about it.
Right. Yeah. That'd only be about 6.5, 7 hours of my trip. And that's unfortunately maybe less, it's a quarter.
Yeah. It'd take a while to get back home if you only drove that distance, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian, well, Steve mentioned to me the other day that he didn't want to miss the live because he wouldn't get to see you. So y'all gotta stay in touch. But yeah, hopefully, guys. I think Tuesday I'm gonna have a machine coming out, and I'm pretty sure I got one to be delivered Tuesday. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not gonna lie about it, but I got a tracking notification the other day. So hopefully this week I'll be able to get some more content out. But I have got to get this job done. So for the next 2 or 3 days, it's probably just gonna be me in here grinding away, trying to get some of these things burned. I've got like 20 done and I've got to do 80. So I've still got 60 more of them to go. And it takes me about 51 minutes to burn 2. So at that rate, I've got to cram some this week to be able to get those done. So, but anyway, guys, what is it? The beard's catching up with Steve. Yeah. I'm letting it grow out there, Brian. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna let Steve sign out and tell y'all whatever he's got to tell you. But if you hadn't already, go hit those thumbs up buttons, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I just spent a little more money so y'all could see this beard in 1080p. So share it out and hit that like button so that extra resolution will pay off for me, guys.
Yeah. Well, I will hopefully be back in my shop with my quality gear, not on a laptop and a weird LED lamp here next week, and hopefully well rested by then. I've been, everybody knows when you're traveling, sometimes you sleep well, sometimes you don't. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I hopped back on here and kept Clack in line, make sure he didn't blame me for anything too bad in my absence, and I'll throw my link out there for any of you that are not subscribed to my channel. Appreciate that as well. I will have more content coming out as well, both some reviews and some tips and tricks and such, and hopefully some other fun stuff throughout the spring and summer. Might be dabbling a little bit away from lasers as well. So we'll definitely catch you all next week. and I will be back in frosty Minnesota.
Yeah, up there making some snow cones. Well,
Oh,
y'all have a good one, guys. Hey, glad to spend the money. Me and Steve have been talking about it for a while because we were having problems. A lot of you guys couldn't see the screen shares and stuff for Lightburn, and being that Lightburn and being able to show you guys stuff in there is kind of a big deal with what we do. We decided it was probably a good idea to go ahead and upgrade to 1080. I don't think I can go any higher than 1080 from what I can tell. So hopefully this is going to be sufficient. The video is going to look better, and y'all be able to see a lot more of what we do, and maybe not hurt your eyes or make you think you need glasses when you don't. So, but like I said, just show us some love and hit that like button, and we'll see you guys next week. Steve should be back at home, and all will be well. And Brian, he will be taking care of the beard in his travels. So, y'all have a good one.
we'll see you.